In this video, we're going to make a guess the number game. Let's just have a look through the completed programs. In Scratch, it looks like this. So as you can see, it feeds back to the user whether their guess is too high or too low, and it also tells them how many guesses it took to get the number. Now let's have a look in Python. Now in Python we've only got text. It's far too complicated to be using tkinter or Pygame at this stage to be able to get those sort of graphics. So we'll get the text version down. Then down the track we can look at refactoring this with some more exciting graphics. If we run this, pick a number between 1 and 20. Took me 5 guesses. So let's have a look at the code completed first, and then we'll look at building them from scratch. We have a variable called number, which stores a random number between 1 and 20. And then we have this repeat block here. Now this repeat block keeps running until a condition is met. The condition that is met is if the user's guess matches the number. So in here we have the user guesses a number between 1 and 20, and we store that in this variable. And if that number matches this first number here, well, then we can break out of this loop and continue down the code to this block here which says you got it and it took you this many guesses. So if you're inside this loop, it's going to run forever until the condition is met. If the first attempt is the user guess is bigger than the number, it will say you're too high. It will add 1 to this guesses variable to let people know that they had 1 guess before, now they might have 2 guesses. And then it repeats it in the loop and says again, pick a number between 1 and 20. Let's say this time they picked a number that was less than the actual number. Well, we would say too low, add another 1 to the guesses variable to let people know how many guesses it took them. And this loop runs until the user's guess does match the number, and then we break out of that block, continue down the program, which is here, and then the program is finished. If we have a look in Python, very similar. We have to bring in the random library to be able to create a random number. Once we've got that in, we have a variable called number which stores that random number between 1 and 20. The user has a guess. We tell them to pick 1 and 20, and the first guess has a value of 1. So we have this while loop again running here. And this loop runs until this condition is met, which is the user's guess does match the number. So in the first instance, if the user's guess is less than the number, we say too low, we add 1 to this guesses number to feed back how many guesses. If they had have picked a number that was higher than the number, we would say you're too high, and the guesses variable is increased by 1. If they do get the number correct, either the first time or however many times, the program breaks out of that loop and then reads the last line which says, you got it, it took you, and whatever number this is, this might be 6, it would say it took you 6 guesses. Looking at the JavaScript code, we have a variable to store a number between 1 and 20. We ask the user for their guess and store that in another variable. And then we just change the value of that variable from a string, which is the default input, and just convert it to a number so that we can run through our program. I should have said that also in Python. We have this integer here to convert in the same manner. And we start at guesses 1 when the person takes their first guess. We have a while loop that opens up here and runs down to this closing curly brace. and it's very similar. If the user's guess is less than the number, too low, add 1 to the feedback guess variable. If the number is too big, too high, increase the guesses variable by 1. And then the trick with this one is to put the prompt in again inside this loop. Even though we've already got it up here, we had to put it inside the loop because otherwise it isn't clear to the user what they do next. And then this loop runs over and over until this condition is met, which is the user's guess does match that number, and then we read this last line. Now, one word of caution when we're working with while loops. So while loops run until the condition is met. So with this code, it is quite possible to run an infinite loop if you haven't typed this properly. Now, it's nothing to be too scared of at this stage, but you might lose your work. So before you actually do some testing in this one, once you've got the while loop in, copy your work somewhere else and save it. There is a good chance that if you run an infinite loop, you might have to close this down and reopen it in case you might lose your work. Just a little word of caution there. Okay, so now that we've had a